Thanks for joining us, everyone. Welcome once again to the Orchid channel. So this morning, going through a couple of the flowers that are in bloom on this cold winter's day. And right here we have the Coelogynes murriana. Now the Coelogynes family contains about 200 species, I think, within Southeast Asia. This particular one's from Vietnam and can be found around elevations up to 2,000 meters, I think between 1,300 and 2,000 meters. So that's a really good sign in that it will tolerate a colder climate, which is certainly what I have right now. It gets down to about 5 degrees at night, and as you can see, this plant hasn't been affected at all. It's got a lovely faint lemony smell, probably the best way to describe it, and it's a fairly vigorous grower. Similar to the Coelogynes cristata from the Himalayas that most orchid growers seem to have in their collection. But yeah, I highly recommend this one. It's a beautiful flower. Flowers fairly consistently in winter and doesn't require a whole lot of attention. So definitely one to add to your collection if you're into no-fuss orchids. Right next to it, we have a little epidendrum. Get this in focus. So this one is an Epidendrum centropedilum. You can find this in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and other South American countries. Grows around the midsection, so it needs a little bit of warmer climate. Certainly keep it above 13 degrees in winter. It's generally what I try and do. And this is quite an easy plant to grow. Otherwise, it does very well for me in the summer months. And the great thing is, if it's doing well for you, it'll shoot out keikis. So there's always some to share around with your friends who are looking at it in admiration. And moving on down here, we have a Howiara. Now the Howiara is an intergeneric Oncidium, a miniature Oncidium, figuring there must be some Tulumnia in there. And right next door is another miniature Oncidium. I think this one will be in full flight probably in the next couple of weeks, so we'll feature that a little bit further. And while we're on the subject of little flowers, we have another Coelogynes over here. This one is the Coelogynes miniata, which is not that common to see orange Coelogynes. They're generally in the white, yellow and green colour palette, but this is another cool grower, so it has a real rambling habit. I haven't had this one that long, so we'll have to wait and see how it goes in summer, but certainly in winter it handles right down to near freezing conditions. So if you have a cool climate, that's certainly one for you. Moving on, we have the Paphiopedilums. Now the Paphiopedilums is a cross between the Phaeus and the Calanthe species, both fairly warm growing. However, Phaeus does grow in swamp areas, so this likes lots of water in summer especially. And other than that, it's not that hard to grow. This one's Paphiopedilums kryptonite is the name of the hybrid, and semi-deciduous, so you'll see probably in the next couple of months a big sway of large Lycaste type leaves coming. Moving on here, this is the Cattleya brownia riga. This is a very popular hybrid in my areas. It does very well in cool climates. And this one's actually been in flower since May, so probably 3 months of flowering. This one's I think on its last dash, but again handles cool temperatures down to about 4 or 5 degrees as long as you keep it out of the rain. But as you can see, I let it get some direct sun, so the leaves aren't looking so good. And of course, hiding in here is a little crucifix orchid, the well-known Epidendrum. These are lovely hybrids. I'm sure most orchid growers find these fairly easy to grow. And again, like most Epidendrums, produces keikis fairly readily from the aerial roots, as you see. Here we have a very diminutive Bulbophyllum Shepherdii. Now this one is an Australian native. You have to really get in there to try and see the flowers. It's somewhat succulent leaves. It grows up north in the Queensland rainforests, and sometimes found through New South Wales as well. A very nice little succulent Bulbophyllum. Tolerates cold weather seamlessly, tolerates long drought weather seamlessly as well, so a very hardy epiphytic orchid. And if we move down a little bit further here we have the Miltonidium super spots Everglades, a lovely cool growing hybrid from the Oncidium intergeneric subgenre. We turn this one around. A very nice burgundy and pink purple. Look forward to seeing that one open up further. And if we move down to this section of the greenhouse, here we have the ever reliable winter Cymbidiums in full bloom. I really like this one here. This is a lovely browny champagne colour, quite unique for the Cymbidiums, at least the ones I see down here. Some deep reds. And of course, for those of you who grow Cymbidiums, you always need a good temperature drop to ensure they bloom. And where I live, it easily gets down to about 5 or 6 degrees every winter. Some orchids don't like that so much. Thankfully, Cymbidiums don't fall into that category. And just above them are some of the slipper orchids. Some of them have been in bloom for a little while. Here we have a little Paphiopedilum spicerianum. This one's from the foothills of the Himalayas. I think it's a little bit ironic on this one. It's referred to as Spicerianum var giganteum. At least that's what the tag said for me. And it's certainly not gigantic. And this one we have here is Paphiopedilum purpuratum, another cool, tolerant, winter flowering slipper orchid. And there's actually an interesting story behind this one. This was struggling for me a little while back, and I took it down to one of our local slipper specialists, Nicky Zurcher. He promptly gave the plant his blessing, and as you can see, it's recovered quite well and is flowering for me this winter. And there's the large complex hybrid. And of course, you can have a Paphiopedilum slipper display without an insigne. Probably the hardiest Paphiopedilum you can grow from experience. And here we have an insigne hybrid. I think one of the flowers have had its show, but this one is called Paphiopedilum Rosy Dawn. I'll give you the exact hybrid composition, but certainly, as you can see, insigne does tend to feature fairly prominently. And a plant I'm looking forward to opening in the next couple of weeks is this fairly large Angraecum. So this is a couple of foot tall at this point. This is Angraecum veitchii, which is a hybrid between Sesquipedale and Magdalena. And this one has a beautiful fragrance in the evening, which I'd love to be able to share with you over YouTube, but I might just stick to the pictures in a couple of weeks. And again, another cold tolerant plant. And finally up here, before I forget, this one has been in flower for quite some time now, so as you can see some of the blooms are starting to wane, but this one is Oncidium Tiger Brew. It's quite a striking colour combination. It's a very pretty flower. And finally we have down here a little Neolochia pulchella. Now, a Neolochia pulchella used to be known as Laelia. It's from the Cattleya family. And as you can see, it's just got tiny little pseudobulbs that creep along the tree or bark. I've had this one mounted for about a year now, so it seems to be doing okay. And they really are stunning once they form a specimen. They cover the tree trunk with these tiny little pink flowers. And once again, it's a Cattleya relative, so it's from South America, and it does grow cool like a lot of Laelias. That wraps things up here on the Orchid channel this morning. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. Over the next few weeks we'll be taking you for a tour around whatever is opening in the garden. As you can see, I think we have another Wilsonara that should be open in the next few days, along with an Oncidium, another little mini Oncidium. So as I said, we grow in a temperate Mediterranean / cooler climates, so hopefully this can provide you a little bit of insight if you have similar conditions on what plants you can grow. Because I know myself, I was struggling for quite some time with a lot of trial and error, so if this can benefit you in some way, I'm happy to help. Until next time, this is the Orchid channel.